People often ask, can you really find God in everything? So I thought I'd grab the camera, we'd go out for a little bit of a nature walk, see if we can get some pictures of some birds, bees, flowers, different things like that, and just kind of look around, explore nature, and answer that question, can we really find and see God in everything? So come with me on a nice little walk. We got a beautiful little foggy, rainy day here in Oregon, and we're gonna see exactly what we can find out here and if it is God. Now, so far, unfortunately, we have seen no birds, but there are some frogs out and about, so we'll see if we can get some frogs, but let's focus on what we do see for now. There's a lot of trees, there's a lot of leaves, there's a lot of blackberries, and to me, that shows me a lot of God. There's this huge, circle of life, they called it in The Lion King, but there is some truth to it, right? These trees are all here because at some point, a bird ate something, they couldn't digest it, and they pooped out a seed. And that seed grew into a tree. That tree took nutrients from the soil, but then returns it to the soil through all the leaves, the moss, the other things that it grows. And eventually the bird who planted that tree will die, return to the soil, and provide those nutrients for that tree. And that tree that produces leaves and fruits and other things will then gather worms for the bird to eat, or small animals that eat other things or eat the nuts. And it's just billions and billions of years of evolution, and the world in motion created all of this. And I know perfectly validly that people will argue, well, it is just all random, but I just don't see that. When I look out at all this nature and all that circle happening and all these little intricate pieces that all have to work together at the same time to create life, I just think there has to be an architect to it all. There has to be a designer to it all. Someone had to have come up with this idea and put it all in motion to all work at the same time at this very time to make this happen. And then there's all the equipment that I'm using to shoot this on. You've got my camera, the camera recording me, the microphone that I'm using so you can hear me. Certainly none of that is naturally occurring, but it's a part of creation. Man created that, and I've often said that man creating something is the ultimate expression of faith in God, because God created and we were created in God's image. Thus, we too want to create. And so when we create, whether that be art, whether that be photography, whether that be a machine, a car, a camera, a microphone, whatever that may be, that creation is us trying to be like our Creator. And so being out here in His creation, using His creation to explore His creation, it's just such a beautiful thing. People often say it helps their depression, it helps them be when they get away from the computer, away from work, and just come out in nature and be. And I think that's by design too, right? God created everything for us. A part of that is nature, a part of that's trees, a part of that's the birds. And just being in His creation brings us happiness because we're supposed to be in His creation. We're supposed to enjoy His creation. It's all a wonderful part, again, of this huge plan. Oh my goodness, I see a giant owl. Let's see if we can get some shots of him. What a beautiful owl. Hopefully I don't spook him. I'm going to stop talking for a second so we can get a shot of him. See if we can line it up. Absolutely gorgeous owl. He's looking at us. Oh my goodness. He is stunning. Again, that is the beauty and creation of God. I'm going to move the camera and hopefully you guys can see him. I'll show you some pictures of him as well, but I want to see if the camera can get him. Oh, he sees us. We're going to try and not disturb him. looking right at us, though. All right. He's up in that tree. Tell me if you can spot him. He's looking right at us. I know it's a little hard to see on that camera, but wow, that already makes this trip worth it. What a beautiful creature to get to see. And again, God created such a beautiful creature, and now using God's creation, we're getting to explore and see something that I think many people don't get to see in person anymore. I mean, you might get to see an owl in person at the zoo, but how often do you get to encounter an owl in the wild? I know I'm talking a lot about this owl. I'm going to shoot a quick video of him, and then we will move on and stop disturbing him. Unfortunately, I have my single large lens here, so I don't get his whole body because I'm so zoomed in. You can see him looking around. He's curious of me. He probably hears those frogs, some food. This video is going to be very shaky. This is a 1600 millimeters that we're viewing this owl through. But oh my goodness. He beautiful giant looking right at the camera. Look at that. Look at that beautiful face. Wonderful. Oh, don't know if I have my phone on me. We're gonna try and get a picture on the phone as well, just to compare like phone camera versus regular camera. Just for the fun of it. Okay, I'm done talking about the owl. We're gonna leave him be so that he can do his thing. Absolutely wonderful, God's creation. All right, so I know I promised I was done talking about that owl, but the second that I looked away, he flew off. And if you didn't know this, owls can fly completely silently. So it was like an anime where I turned my back on him for 1 second, and when I looked back, he was gone. But also, now there's a bunch of other birds chirping. I don't know what kind of owl exactly he is, but I do know some owls can eat other birds. So I'm wondering if they saw the owl as it was flying out and decided to warn each other. And again, this falls into God created such a perfect thing, right? All these intricate little details. If you asked a person to create such small details and flesh something out, it would take us tens, if not 20, 30, 40 years to create all this, and it wouldn't be nearly as fleshed out and perfect as the world is. You hear all the birds crying. You probably don't because this microphone only picks me up, but hopefully you can hear those birds all crying. The forest is coming alive. Again, I don't know how someone can come out here and see all of this and not see God's hand in this creation, in this beauty and wonder. It's enough to, not to be dramatic, but it's enough to make you cry, right? It's beautiful, it's serene, it's wonderful. Now, of course, this is the forest. It's easy to see God when you're in the forest, when you're out here seeing natural beauty, but can we find it in the city? Can we find it in other locations? I think we can. I'd like to try going there next to look at it. But before we get to the city, I want to finish exploring this forest a little bit. Maybe we can get another owl. The rain's kind of picking up, so we won't be able to get to do much more out here. But when people say God loves you, yes, God loves you. God loves you as an individual person, but there's so much more to the statement, right? It's not just God loves you. God loves your mom, your dad, your neighbor, all of creation. And a part of that love is this earth. As far as we know, the Earth is the only planet like this. Yes, we're exploring other planets. Yes, we're finding other potential places with life or an atmosphere or ice, but there's nothing we've discovered that's like this. The entire world, the entirety of nature, the screaming of birds, the cry of the frogs, the howling of the wolf, everything, all of this is an expression of how much God loves us. He created all of this for us. This is part of God's love. This is what we mean when God loves you. Yes, he loves you like a parent would love you. He loves you like your spouse would love you, but he also loves you so much. He created all of this for you. And one of the things that I really hope as I'm taking these pictures and talking to you about God is that you will see God through my art. I believe that videography, photography, making YouTube content is a form of art. And as a form of art, a form of expression, it too is creation, like God. I am trying to be like God in that I am creating something that points to God. Like everything else around us is pointing to God. I truly believe that's what it means to be a creator, what it means to do art, is to try and bring God to us through our creation, just like God pointed us to him through his creation. It's a beautiful circle. It's so, again, brilliantly well thought out. And I know people walk to like the pyramids and look at pyramids and say, there's no way a human created that. It had to be something greater. And obviously, we know that humans did build the pyramids. I know there's conspiracies about aliens and things, but I think the science has shown pretty well we did build the pyramids. But when you go to a grander scale and you look at the Earth, the solar system, the galaxies, the universe, the infinity of space, I don't think anything inside of nature could have created that. Again, in all of its perfect intricacies and all the perfect layers and all the billions and billions and billions of things that had to go right to make it happen, I don't think that could have been done by nature. I feel strongly that there had to have been something more that created all of it. I look to this and see this, again, world, galaxy, solar system, everything is truly God. All right, I'm off camera for a second. I'll show you a picture. I saw something that looked like another owl in a tree, but when I zoomed in on it, it appeared to just be a bunch of moss and dirt stuck in a tree, which just shows you how well their camouflage works. I see this mass, I'm like, is that an owl or is that just a mass of leaves and stuff? Again, brilliant, brilliant camouflage created by a brilliant, brilliant God. So you say, Charlie, you went out to the forest, said God's out in nature, that's easy to see. What about the city? So here we are in the city, and I'll admit it's a little bit harder, but it's a little bit about perspective. You look around the city, you see all these parking spots are full because it's the holiday season, everyone's rushing to buy things. You see homeless people still out on the streets, you see people suffering. It's a lot harder to see God in here, so you think, because all you see is doom and gloom, consumerism, suffering, and a concrete jungle. So, is it possible to find God in the city? And to that, I say yes. You can still find God in the city, and it's a little bit of changing our perspective. You see all the people out trying to buy things and say, well, that's just pointless consumerism. But I see it as love, love like God gave us. We know that times are tough right now. We know that people are suffering and there's not enough money to go around. And yet, thousands of people are going to stores to buy things for people they love, to show them that they love them, to show them that the giving spirit is still alive, to say, hey, even though I don't have a whole lot, I'm going to give you what little I have to show you that I was thinking about you, to show you that I love you. To me, that's truly a love like God's. Now, it's not perfect. As I said, we do see, of course, the homeless out on the street suffering, and I think we should be called to do more for them. People should be more than willing to donate instead of buying gifts to help other people. But we know that people aren't always rational. People aren't always logical. Sometimes we want to take care of people that we know versus people that we don't know. And that's not necessarily to the fault of humanity. That's just simply how humanity works. People see graffiti and think that it's ugly, that it's hideous, that's deforming the city. But what I see is that someone, again, like God, they want to create. They have art that they want to show off. And maybe that's the only canvas they have. Maybe that's the expression that they want to show off. We found tons and tons of graffiti, wall writings, things like that from ancient Greece and all over the world. Why is it considered historical, archaeological significant? if it's ancient, but if we do it, it's graffiti and it's wrong. Those are people just like us who are trying to express something, trying to show a human nature that Jesus Christ himself has. There's lots of beautiful art and there's lots of beautiful mediums. What we consider art now is way different than what people considered art back in the day. It grows, it expands, it's ever changing. I think graffiti has a place in that style of art, in that style of expression, in that humans trying to do or see or say something that doesn't always conform to the standards of living, that doesn't always conform to society. I think it's really important to have that expression. So again, it's not just this ugly eyesore that people think it is. You shift your perspective and see that's art. That's humanity. That is literally a piece of God in someone showing themselves out. Now, yes, it can be vulgar, and yes, there can be parts that are exceptions to it, but for the most part, I think a lot of it can be classified as art. And again, we have all the cars, lots and lots of cars, and a lot of people think cars are bad, and rightly so. There are some bad things about cars. There are some things that cars have done to the environment, to the world, that can be viewed as bad. And so when people see just parking lot after parking lot, car after car, they start to get kind of depressed and say, oh, God's not here. This is just some sort of horrible, hellish car landscape. But cars, to me, it's one of those things where, like, when people ask the question of why does God allow evil, we answer, well, because there's a greater good. As long as the good outweighs the evil, then the good should stay, even if some evil comes from it, right? I think cars fall into that category. Yes, cars have undoubtedly caused some damage to the world. Yes, there are some bad things about cars. And yes, we should work on other things like mass transportation, bicycles, other things that can help the world. I don't disagree with any of that. However, at the same time, cars have allowed so many great things for humanity. You know, I live an hour away from my parents or so, but I still get to see them regularly because I have a car. If I didn't have a car, I don't know when I would be able to see them next. Cars allow for huge transportations of food, of water, of supplies. Cars, of course, gave way to freight trains and, I guess backwards on that one. Cars gave way to other things, airplanes, freight trucks, lots of different things that have allowed people to go farther and farther and provide necessary and unnecessary things to people across the globe. And yes, there might be some part for us to talk about where, okay, we're creating unnecessary plastic, unnecessary things that people don't need and shipping them across the world. And again, that is bad and causing bad for the world. But at the same time, does the greater good outweigh those bad? And I think it does. I know that not everyone needs a camera. I know that I might not need a camera. But with it, I'm creating. A lot of those other things are in that same boat. It may not have importance to us, but it's bringing some form of joy. It's bringing some form of joy to other people. It's bringing some form of art to other people. It's bringing some form of expression to other people. This is where we get into those deeper conversations, things like, why is it important that dolls look like different people? Well, because that might be the only time that someone sees something that looks like them. And that causes them to think, if I can have a doll that looks like me, why can't I have a movie that looks like me? Why can't I have a piece of art that looks like me? There's a lot of different ways that can then blossom into a new relationship for people to interact with art in themselves, different mediums. So the point of this long-winded rant, if you made it this far, is that yes, God is in everything. And yes, you might have to change your perspective a little bit, but you can find him if you're looking for it. And you'll see God's influence in so many things, in humanity, in creation, in nature, and things that we make. Now again, that's not to say that there's not bad out there. There'll probably always be some form of bad in the world, but that doesn't mean we can't stop looking for the good, looking for the light, looking for God. So thank you for watching this long. If you found God somewhere in this video or anywhere else, leave it in the comments. Leave a like and all that sort of stuff that you gotta say to, be a social media influencer, and have a blessed evening.